The story begins with Alice waking up in a shower, wrapped in a cloth sheet. She appears disoriented and frightened. Stepping out, she moves into a nearby room where she finds a red dress laid out on the bed. After putting it on, she leaves the room and makes her way down a dimly lit hallway. She ends up in a room with lasers. She barely avoids one and jumps into a vent just before another laser can cut her into pieces. Crawling through the vent, she falls into an empty hospital corridor. She grabs a rolling bed for support, but it's suddenly sliced in half by a giant guillotine. Terrified, she carefully moves past it. Out of nowhere, another trap pops up from the floor, shooting bullets everywhere. The bullets hit Alice in the stomach, killing her instantly. As her lifeless body lies on the ground, 3 scientists arrive at the scene. One of them, Dr. Isaacs, instructs the others to take a blood sample and dispose of the body.
Take a sample of her blood, then get rid of that.
After collecting the sample, they throw her body into an outdoor pit filled with countless other identical bodies of Alice, stacked in a pile. The entire area is just a small section of a massive underground facility belonging to the Umbrella Corporation, hidden somewhere in the western part of North America. Alice narrates that while the Umbrella Corporation believed the Raccoon City outbreak was contained, the T-virus quickly spread beyond control. Within weeks, it engulfed North America, and within months, the entire world. The virus didn't just target humans. It wiped out most plant life, turning the planet into a barren desert. Many continents became lifeless wastelands. Oceans shrank, rivers and lakes dried up, and cities were abandoned. Humanity was left with no choice but to stay on the move. Constant travel became the only way to survive in this desolate world.
Staying on the road seemed the only way to stay alive.
Alice rides her motorcycle into the ruins of Salt Lake City, Utah, while listening to a radio broadcast claiming to be from survivors. She parks outside the station and enters. The place seems empty, with no zombies in sight, but she hears someone sobbing in the back. Following the sound, Alice finds an old woman who tearfully says her baby is in pain.
My baby. Please help my baby.
Alice takes the baby and removes the blanket, only to discover it's a corpse. Shocked, she drops the body, but before she can react, she's ambushed by the 5 residents of the station. It turns out they've been faking distress calls to lure people in, kill them, and steal their belongings. The group harasses Alice until she kills one of them. Another one hits her on the head from behind and throws her into a pit with zombie dogs. They release the dogs to attack her. Alice fights back, killing 2 dogs. She uses a rope to chain the rest. The dogs pull at the rope so hard that the floor above collapses, dropping the owners into the pit. Dogs attack and kill the rest of them. She grabs her weapons and escapes. Meanwhile, in Nevada, a large convoy moves across the desert, with classic rock music blasting from their jeeps. Claire, leading the convoy, asks Carlos if he has any cigarettes.
Hey Carlos, this is Claire. You got any smokes?
Carlos tells her he doesn't have any and insists he's not lying. Claire then turns to Betty and a few others asking them for cigarettes. They all say no as well. At Umbrella's North American HQ, Chairman Albert Wesker and the board of directors hold a meeting. The members report that supplies in 2 cities are down by 50% and 27%, and casualties are increasing. Wesker calls in Dr. Isaacs and scolds him for failing to find a cure for the T-virus.
What does the science division have to report?
Which has devastated the world. Isaacs explains that he has cloned Alice's genetic material because he needs her blood to create a cure. However, he needs the original Project Alice since none of the 86 clones have been successful.
Without the original Project Alice, progress has been difficult.
He also mentions that he's trying to domesticate the clones, treating them as animals. If he can control them, they could be used for Umbrella's benefit. Wesker bluntly gives Isaacs 1 week to find a solution. Isaacs argues that results matter more than time, but Wesker warns that if he can't deliver in a week, someone else will take over the project. He ends the meeting, and the directors vanish as they are just holograms. Alice pulls up to a gas station to refuel her motorcycle, but the pumps aren't working due to a lack of electricity. She heads inside the building and opens a door, finding a corpse. A swarm of flies bursts out. She discovers a journal with transmission dates and locations, along with the words, "Alaska safe?" On her way out with the journal, Alice notices a strange crow staring at her. At the same time, she hears a radio broadcast from Mikey, a member of Claire's convoy. The broadcast asks if any survivors are left and confirm their location at a strip motel. The convoy arrives at the deserted motel. Carlos and LJ head inside to investigate. Carlos checks the front hall while LJ checks the rooms. They all were locked except for one with a broken lock. LJ enters the room and starts looking around, but a zombie grabs him. After a brief struggle, he shoots it dead. He sits back to relax, but another zombie suddenly appears and charges at him. He kills it too. As he turns around, a third zombie attacks him. After a fight, the zombie bites him on the right side of his chest. Carlos rushes in and kills the zombie. While Betty enters and checks on LJ, she declares him fine, and LJ flirts with her, inviting her to his place.
So what do we say, dinner at my place?
Betty leaves, and LJ watches her go. He then lifts his shirt to reveal the zombie bite. That evening, Carlos finishes setting up the surveillance monitors for Mikey. Otto distributes cans of food to everyone, handing one to Claire, and tells what's inside by simply shaking the can.
What's this, huh? Soup?
Claire asks how that's possible, and Otto laughs, saying it's an old skill.
How do you do that?
Just one of my skills.
As they sit together, Claire expresses to Carlos how exhausted she is from always being on the move. Alice lies asleep in the desert, dreaming about the death of her most recent clone. In her sleep, she accidentally lifts everything around her with telekinesis. When she wakes, everything falls back to the ground, including her motorcycle, which is now broken. With a sigh, Alice picks up the journal and looks at it again. Meanwhile, Dr. Isaacs is in his underground lab when a holographic AI model alerts him to a burst of psionic activity detected in the Nevada desert.
My sensors have detected a peak in psionic activity.
He suspects it could be Alice, but before he can act, his superior, Slater, enters. Slater asks about the progress of Isaacs' research and reminds him of company policy. Isaacs mentions Alice clone number 87 and that he needs the original Project Alice to succeed because her genetic structure and blood are unique. After that, Slater exits the room. Isaacs walks over to a test section where a zombie is chained up, having been injected with some of Alice's blood. He appears calm and sophisticated, observing the creature. He notices a cell phone on a nearby counter, recognizes it, and takes a picture of the two lab assistants standing nearby using the camera.
My God.
The assistants begin congratulating Isaacs on his progress. However, the zombie grows increasingly frustrated with a shape recognition test. It suddenly breaks free from its chains and launches itself at the assistants, attacking them. Isaacs quickly exits the room. He locks the door behind him, ignoring the assistant's pleas for him to open it. He watches coldly through the glass as the zombie attacks and feeds on the helpless assistants. Isaacs adjusts his collar and walks away. The following day, Alice makes her way across the desert. At the same time, Kmart wakes up from a nightmare, hearing something strange. She nudges Claire awake, and they spot a large number of crows gathering nearby. Claire notices their glowing red eyes and guesses that the birds have been feeding on the undead. Quietly, Claire radios the group, urging them to pack up and leave as quickly and quietly as possible.
Roll up the windows and keep quiet.
Initially, the crows don't sense them, but when a kid on the school bus accidentally drops a can, the crows detect their presence. The crows launch an attack on everyone. The bus crashes and the crows swarm around it. Claire and Carlos manage to get some kids into Mikey's van, but two women fall behind. One is pecked to death by the crows, while the other gets separated. As Claire and LJ run to help her, shooting at the crows, Chase uses a giant flamethrower to fend them off. Soon, Betty loses the strength to keep the window closed to prevent the crows from entering, and she gets injured while saving a girl. Otto, overwhelmed by the swarm, is killed. After LJ rescues the girl, he is left in shock and devastation when Betty stays behind on the bus. Betty! She is killed by the crows, telling him to leave and save himself. The flamethrower man is soon attacked and killed by the crows, and the flames spread toward the girl. Carlos reaches her and shields her with his body as the fire stops just 5 feet away. Confused, Carlos looks up and sees Alice, who is using a psychic bubble to protect them. The last of the crows burns away, and Alice lowers the bubble. The group, including Claire, gathers around, and Carlos and Alice hug each other. At Isaac's lab, Slater arrives just as Alice Clone 87 undergoes the test routine. While she's attacked by one of the super smart zombies, Isaac shows Slater a group of about a dozen smart zombies, all waiting to be released. He reveals that the serum they've developed so far is actually making them stronger, and it can be more useful to them. At that moment, the AI model notifies Isaac of a new burst of psionic activity in the desert, with a 62% chance that it's Alice. Isaac comments that Alice's powers have grown significantly since escaping the Detroit facility. He says the chance of finding her is too important to ignore, though Slater warns that Wesker won't approve. Meanwhile, Alice wakes up in a tent being watched by Kmart. When Alice asks her name,
What's your name?
Kmart explains that she was found in the desert. She didn't like her old name, and with everyone she knew gone, decided to start fresh with a new one. Carlos then takes Alice outside, where the convoy survivors are finishing burying their dead. He introduces her to Claire, who thanks Alice for saving Carlos and the others from the fire.
Thank you so much for your help.
Kmart tells Alice that the others are afraid of her because of her powers.
They were all talking about what you did.
Later, Alice suggests heading to Alaska, believing there may still be survivors there. Claire initially disagrees, worried about the risks to the convoy. She doesn't want to put their lives in danger. However, she realizes that their hope is dwindling, and their numbers are decreasing quickly. In the end, she decides to let the group vote. Almost everyone agrees to go to Alaska. But before they can leave, they need to stop for gas. The closest place with enough fuel is Las Vegas, as they've already cleared all the small towns nearby, though Las Vegas would be crowded with zombies. That night, LJ examines his bite while Alice flips through a journal. She stops at a page that reads, "Keep on laughing, keep on living, keep on loving." Meanwhile, Isaac is in a meeting with Wesker through a communications hologram, trying to get Umbrella troops and support to search for Alice.
The original Project Alice is vital to my research.
However, Wesker disagrees, saying he won't allow it until they're 100% sure of Alice's location.
100%.
He orders Isaac to continue focusing on the cure research. Isaac secretly records part of their conversation and uses an AI-generated voice similar to Wesker's to authorize the release of troops. Soon, a large group of Umbrella soldiers arrives at the facility by helicopter. The next morning, everyone sets off toward Vegas. On the way, Chase tells LJ that LJ's body feels too cold. They finally reach Vegas, but the city is completely covered in sand. Claire remarks that the sand must have kept building up because no one was there to clear it away. Chase climbs up to a lookout position on the replica Eiffel Tower while the others get out to move a crate blocking their path. Suddenly, a group of super-fast, smart zombies burst out and attack everyone. Chase manages to kill several zombies from his elevated position but gets distracted helping a girl climb up to him. During this time, the zombies reach him and bite him. In a final act of sacrifice, he throws himself and the zombies off the roof, killing them all in the fall. He dies, but the zombies on him are also destroyed. LJ and Kmart take refuge in a van, but LJ soon turns and attacks her. He bites Carlos, who kills him to protect himself. Mikey fights zombies but is overwhelmed. He gets bitten and killed by 3 zombies. Claire tries to save him but fails. She kills the zombies, but Mikey is already dead. Alice continues fighting off zombies with her knife when a nearby rooftop team of Umbrella techs, including Isaac, shuts her down. Despite the command, she resists and uses her psychic powers to trace their location, reaching the rooftop. There, she attacks and kills all the techs except for Isaac, who manages to escape. As he's about to board the helicopter, he's bitten by a zombie, which is quickly killed by the pilot. Isaac orders the pilot to get the antivirus for him as the chopper takes off.
Give me the antivirus!
Alice pursues him, but by the time she reaches the location, Isaac has already escaped. Upon returning to his lab, Isaac is placed under house arrest by the soldiers. Slater comes to see Isaac and notices that he has injected himself with about 10 vials of his serum. He tells Isaac that he's lost control and has been sentenced to liquidation.
You're out of control. I sentence you to summary liquidation.
Isaac objects, arguing that they can't just liquefy him, but Slater shoots him dead. After firing, Slater turns around to order 2 guards to focus on Alice, but just as he does, Isaac gets back on his feet. One of the guards tries to warn Slater, but it's too late. Isaac uses his tentacles to kill the guard and the other soldiers quickly. A little while later, Carlos, Kmart, Claire, and Alice track the helicopter to the hidden Umbrella base. Alice reassures Carlos that they'll find an antidote in Isaac's facility. However, Carlos smiles and tells her that he knows there's no cure. He volunteers to distract the zombies so Alice can enter the facility. He drives a large fuel truck into the mass of thousands of zombies piled against the fence. Finding a cigarette stuck nearby, he lights it and starts smoking before blowing up the truck, killing dozens of zombies in the explosion. Alice, Kmart, Claire, and the others drive closer to the facility. Once they reach the site, Alice loads everyone onto a helicopter. Before it lifts off, she throws the journal to Kmart and tells her to take care of the group. Alice gives Claire a final look and tells them to go. She has to stay behind to enter the facility. Alice enters the underground facility and immediately notices the lifeless bodies of several Alice clones. She takes the lift down into the complex and finds it in ruins, a complete mess. As she explores, the AI model appears before her and introduces itself. Alice coldly responds, saying she knew her sister and that she was a homicidal bitch.
She was a homicidal bitch.
The AI model explains that they are programmed to take the most logical path to save the human race. It goes on to explain that Isaac had been using Alice's blood to find a cure, but he has turned into a monster and is now contained on the lower levels. The AI reveals that Alice's blood can be used to create a permanent cure for the T-virus, and that everything needed to synthesize the cure is already in the facility. The AI opens an elevator for Alice, wishing her luck as she sends her down to the labs.
Good luck.
Upon arriving, Alice sees Alice clone number 88 inside a protective bubble. As Alice touches it, the bubble bursts, causing the clone to sit up before collapsing unconscious. Alice quickly removes her coat and covers the clone with it. She sighs, considering her dead. Just then, Isaac emerges, completely transformed into a monster. Alice and Isaac engage in a fierce battle, with Alice using her psionic bubble to hold him off. The fight eventually leads them to the laser room. Isaac declares that he always believed she was the future, but now he knows he is the true future.
I am the future.
Alice laughs, telling him that they are both about to die. As the laser cube activates, it begins slicing Isaac into pieces. Just as the lasers near Alice, they suddenly stop. The clone, whom Alice thought was dead, has gotten up and shut down the laser system. In Tokyo, Wesker is having a meeting with the board members of Umbrella through a hologram. He informs them that the North American facility has been compromised, and as a result, all the research there will now be under his direct supervision. He makes it clear that their main goal is to locate and capture Alice. Just then, Alice suddenly appears as a hologram, speaking from the North American lab. She tells the board that she is coming for them and will bring a few friends along with her.
I'm gonna be bringing a few of my friends.
After saying this, Alice shuts down the computer and turns her attention to the room full of clones, all sealed in bubbles and lined up in rows.